everybody, it's Andrea, and I just wanted to come on to do a quick introduction of the next Limitless Man conversation, an intimate conversation between Rahul Bimbani and Oren Harris, who are definitely two of the most profound and clearly aligned individuals I have ever been in touch with. There is honestly not a time I don't connect with them and I don't leave feeling more just expanded in my own being and embodied in the truth of my own unique soul essence. And they got into a conversation between the two of them and recorded it. And I am honored to share this very, very intimate conversation between the two of them as they speak about limitless relationships and what that means to them and what that feels like to them. And I am going to invite you all, if you are being drawn to this video, to make sure that you have some time, that you're in a space with very few distractions, to really sit and be present with what they are sharing for a couple reasons. One, because what they are speaking about is something that can and will possibly take you outside of every idea you've ever had around relationship. It actually, like, I even know for me as I watched it, and I spend a lot of time with these men, even for me, I could feel my body just kind of getting a little uncomfortable at some of the areas, and also feeling it just want to relax into the possibility of love at this level of freedom, of total freedom, of being who we are and being supported in that. And the other reason why I would invite you to just be present and be still with these men is they do speak from such a heart-centered space. So the energy that they are emitting is an opportunity to receive through their clarity the love that you are. So even beyond the words and maybe the thought processes that might come up as you listen to what they are sharing, to give yourself some time to just breathe and feel and just receive the love of two men who are committed to the leading edge of relating and intimacy and relationship and, of course, love. So enjoy these two incredible men. I love you guys, and I love you all, and we will see you on the other side. Mwah.
So it's a little surprise cameo for Andrea.
The Limitless Man.
The Limitless Man.
Yes.
So we're having this intimate conversation, something that's very personal to both of us, that I felt inspired to record and share with people. So I was recalling maybe 3 years ago when a buddy of mine and I, Andrew, who I mentioned to you, we were sitting and we were talking about the ultimate relationship, and this woman that we were feeling in our lives, and the topic of sex. Because what you said that activated this memory was, you said it always comes down to the sex thing, as far as that one thing. It always comes back to that one thing. It's like the leading edge thing that can knock a woman off center. Not even just a woman, a man, right? Mm-hmm. His thoughts about that, his way of being within that, how that influences the relationship. So this major thing, right? That's a whole other conversation. And when you said that, it reminded me of when I was talking with Andrew, and we came to this realization at the same time, and we were like, man, if we ever could find a woman that could say in truth, do whatever you want, even if that means sleeping with another woman. And I just remember how I felt, which is not far off from how I feel right now. I remember how I felt in that moment, and the depth of truth of what that meant to me. I so related to him in that moment because I could feel it actually meant the same thing to him versus what it could sound like and all the numerous amount of projections that could be put on that. What we were saying, the first version of it was something like, if a woman could only understand how high her stock would be, she would be in a league of extraordinary women, an extremely rare league, like off the charts. It felt to me in that moment deeply ironic, and the irony is that the magnitude of feeling or fear or contraction that could come around that conversation, and the perceived danger in beholding your man in that way, is that it actually, for me, and what I could feel truthfully inside me, it actually created the opposite feeling. It created a magnetic vortex, a gravity that was so irresistible, so magnetic that it's like, why would you want to leave a woman like that? You know? And I think that the thing that moves me the most in that, and this at the time, you know, I wasn't completely embodying that, so it wasn't completely translating that way in my life, but I just remember somewhere deep down inside me, I was just like, man, I wish like I could even have this conversation with a woman and that she could really feel the love in it. The love. That's the most moving thing about it, that you could hold that much space, that level of truth, that level of commitment to the soul, to the degree that if something would move me and delight me, such as going to sleep with another woman, it's the love in it. As it really has nothing to do really with sleeping with another woman. And I just remembered at the time, I was in disbelief that any woman could even, you know, be in proximity of the conversation, let alone hear it, let alone feel it. You know, and the farthest I'd gotten at that time was the ability to actually communicate it and to actually speak it with very little resistance, but to feel known within that and what that actually means to me.
You know? Yeah, the stock conversation of like a woman's stock being so high if she was able to be in that space, really feeling into the zone, the level of receiving of self, just the amount of divinity in, because like you said, it's a massive death portal for women. It represents the final frontier, I feel, for I mean, right? I mean, like, so, but what's on the other side of that is so huge and so sacred and precious and divine and one of a kind, and her, that like the amount of love that's in that, in her beingness and the way she operates in the world and like shows up on the other side of that is, I mean, that is one of a kind. And the beautiful thing is that no matter how many women travel through that death portal, you can say the same thing about all of them. Like, they're all one of a kind in their own respective way, and their stock is through the roof. And they're like, so we could have a world full of women in that zone, and it would not like there's no competition in that zone. It just adds to everything. So, yeah, now, after this conversation, like, I can feel what you said about the woman being, like, delighting in, and how it is her, too. How it adds to her. Like,
yeah,
right.
Being so
right.
deep in love,
right.
aka oneness, that there's actually no separation, and truthfully, authentically, you can feel that what you want for another is what you want for yourself.
Right.
What you imagine or behold or receive as another's becomes the expansion and the receiving for yourself. There's actually no separation.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like most people, especially people in our tribe, can connect to that feeling in some regards, whether it's through their service or with their kids or with their... But I think that level of vibration, that level of love is trying to permeate every department of our lives. Right. And like you said, with relationships, this part about sex, it's like the final frontier.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but the delight, I mean, if it was a progression, it would be on one end, it would be total resistance, which is like total fear death.
Right.
It's like the ultimate, terror. It would move from that to like neutrality, but the conversation, if we go in unconditional love and keep going, the conversation moves into delight. And that's why I said that, like, the idea of sleeping with another woman, if that was true, I'm using the word true to try to give some word that is a soul resonance. Like true, pure, passionate, pure, love, delightful. Anybody who's if I'm one with you and that's delightful for you and I'm one with you, there's no way I cannot feel delight. That's why it's called oneness. Right. And that's inspiring to me. That level of connection, intimacy, and love, that to me is the prize. And that's why I said it really doesn't have anything to do specifically with sleeping with another woman. It opens the relationship up into divinity, into pure divinity, and into limitlessness.
And, I think that what you said in the beginning about it being for men and for women, right? Like, being something that's challenging, that draws our awareness to it.
Oh, for sure.
For men, too. I'm saying, like, I feel like the only limitation up until the past moment where you shared your latest clarity, the limitation and the manifestation of it was the belief, like even being not believing it was possible for a woman to be in that space, but like you said, feeling it fully, like feeling what that feels like. That is what clicked in for me to actually manifest it in my experience. But for a while now, I feel like I've been able to extend that to the women that I've been with, is that level of love and freedom. And then, for them, because I'm in it and it's natural for me, they might look at me and be like, well, you're not a woman. I'm like, I went through my own progression of that too, and it was intense. But to get to a point where, like, the woman that I was in love with, and for her to share that she had that experience, and for me to be like, thank you for sharing, I'm glad that you had that experience, that's what you wanted, I want that for you, and really feel it. Like, it has in the past blown the minds of every woman I've been with, because, but that's the frequency though, right, that we're talking about, the love.
And here's a message out for the women out there, and this is, like, as a man, our desire for deep connection and intimacy, I think this is really, really important for women to be able to connect to and understand about men, is that, the challenge for us, we're talking about the expansion for the woman and what that means for the woman. My personal growth and my evolution with this idea, the expansion for us as a being really is one of self-love. It has nothing to do just the very ability to even think about and honor our own even thoughts, if we're having thoughts about sleeping with another woman, and then our feelings, and then our impulse really is a deep, deep honoring of self and love. And there's so many men out there that, and this totally affects the level of intimacy in relationships, even if it never even comes up, because they establish that we just don't do that. If it's anywhere in his consciousness, now that guy is a prisoner in his own consciousness. He has a department there, a Pandora's box, deep down in his soul that he's yearning to invite his woman into. And if there's a lot of friction, it won't even come up. And for the man, what it means is that if it's not coming up, it means that we're in judgment of ourselves, and judgment doesn't feel good. It feels like shit, because it's not true. Independent of what it is that we're deciding whether we're going to do or not do, or think or not think, or be or not be, from a pure level of unconditionalness, men feel trapped inside themselves. I mean, we're talking about the Holy Grail here. We're talking about the last frontier. Right. I'm saying even things, maybe not in our tribe, but even things like looking at other women or really delighting in and appreciating other women. In a lot of relationships, there's such an established conscious and unconscious agreement that we're not going to go there, or that we don't want to face these emotions, both of us, that it winds up being this thing that a man's holding, especially if he's trying to be a man and that's not what a man does. All of that's judgment, so a guy winds up feeling really alone somewhere inside himself, and he might not always experience that because he might not be present to it. He might have already resorted to, like, well, but that's actually a belief that we're not actually love. If we think that any of our thoughts and desires moving through us are corrupt by nature, or unworthy of love or consideration, I don't consideration, let alone delight.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what's going on for the man, and so I don't think that a lot of women think about like everything. Like, hey, I feel sorry for you. That you know what I mean? That you can't think about or feel, or let alone go do the thing. I don't think that many women would like have any level of empathy or sympathy because it's such a solid wall because it's this thing. So like I think that that's a new conversation for a woman to even go, man, what if you could actually be compassionate, empathetic, sympathetic, and like feel into that and feel what it actually means for him. And that was my first feeling, like I said, that I felt was like beyond the fact that there wasn't even space to even say it. I felt like I wasn't known. I felt like because even when she said, well, at the time, this is 3 years ago, even when she said, well, why do you want to do that? That's an attempt to be more intimate and get to know me. There was so much friction there that wasn't being spoken that I felt like anything that I would have said was getting filtered through the death's door, you know what I mean, or the resistance to death's door. So it didn't really connect on the deepest level. So every conversation, which was an upgrade that we could actually talk about it, but every conversation, I still left there feeling like there's still a part of me that you don't really know. No meaning, you're not just listening to my words, but you can know why am I feeling even inclined to talk about it. Like why? Really why? What does that mean to me as a soul? You know? So
this is a deep one. There's so many phases of it I can see as it unfolds. You know, a woman loving herself enough and you enough to be able to extend that sincere desire and receptivity to why would it even show up for you, and then the furthest progression being like, I delight in you having everything that you want, no exceptions, everything, in that specific conversation. And I feel like the level of receiving of self that you were talking about that goes along with being able to extend that, but also behold one, like for her to feel that for herself as well, like me extend it to her, but for her to feel like that level of fluidity in terms of it moving through her as well. Like, what does it take for you to actually feel that and extend it to another? The level of receiving of your own like when I was having this conversation recently with a woman, she was like, how do you even do that? Like, she was like, you don't get jealous? I was like, I haven't felt jealous in a while. She's like, how do you? And I was like, because my relationship with anybody can't be touched by anything like anything.
Right.
It's real. So this has been a progressive thing for me personally because, like you said, it's caused me to go deeper within myself, but also become more receptive to what's actually real, like a deeper truth, consistently in my relationships. Because whenever I felt myself getting jealous, I was like, oh, well, what's actually true here? And then I got present to the eternal nature of my relationship, and like the sacredness of that, and the one-of-a-kindness of it, and how nothing is compromised. Actually, everything is. I can have it all.
Right.
And I want to feel that, and I do extend it. I feel it, and I want my woman to feel that too, and extend it.
Totally.
Right? That's the level of intimacy in that, level of connection in that, like it's unparalleled. There's nothing
off the charts.
like it. That's, yeah.
I think the other thing that's deeply ironic about this conversation too is that, and when I say ironic, only I mean to the mind, you know, because the mind, when it's in fear, you know, can't perceive accurately anyway. And one of the ironies of this conversation is that in the case that you have two beings and they are aligned with a monogamous relationship that looks like, the outpicturing of which looks like the guy or the woman is never with somebody else. Like, you know, like, that is possible, right? The irony is that I think in many situations, if two beings are actually those beings, and that is their destiny, and that is the way that it is, then by saying to your man and meaning it and feeling it on the deepest level that you can do this, that probably lessens the likelihood of it happening.
Right.
That's the other thing that's a trip about it.
Right.
You know, it's like, and I can feel that that's pretty accurate for me, because at the time, like, even when I said it, it's not like I was imagining or even thinking about girls I wanted to sleep with. I just knew what it felt like. I knew something was true about it. You know,
that level of freedom,
that level of love, that level of freedom.
Right.
You know, and so it's almost like, yeah, if you face your worst fear, I mean, because what I believe is we can have anything that we want. We're really limitless, and so getting in a conversation about monogamy versus multiple partners, and even trying to decide what's true for you within that, when you have any level of charge, let alone it's a death's door and you have a tremendous amount of fear or charge around it. It's interesting to talk to women who they say they feel certain that they're not aligned with that. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that completely until somebody has no fear. Right. Because then you're in freedom and you're in love and you're in choice. And then if you choose, then first of all, you wouldn't even have to declare that.
Right.
You wouldn't even have to say, well, I don't want a man. You wouldn't even have to have a rebuttal. You would just be. It would just be.
Enjoying your experience.
You just be enjoying your experience.
Lined up with that too.
Right.
There you go. It'd be perfect. Would never have to even come up.
Right.
That's alignment. Pure.
Yeah. And that's why it makes all the questions, that have come up, kind of irrelevant in the sense that, well, if that's true for you, and so I think it's just general about life in general, process of evolution and self-discovery. Because we've learned judgment as children, we a lot of the things that we conclude that are ideal and the things that we say that we want, many of those things we're not even certain about because they've been influenced by judgment or what we should want or what we should not want. And so, especially in this area and in sexuality, because there's been so much energy around it, I think that probably a majority of adults, we don't even know
what our true
preference is because you can't know until all preferences are equal. That's love. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, I think progressing this conversation is a progression towards the deepening of love. And that to me is the most inspiring part about it. And talk about, as a man, having a woman that has that level of love, and that's what's up.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
That's what would captivate we talk about devotion, or we talk about, a lot of women want that from their man. I'm like, that's that level of love moving, and what I think I might have said to you, I was like, true devotion is not possible until both beings are limitless, and they can fully receive, themselves, essentially, and be able to extend that out to another. That's the level that I can feel women when they say the word devotion, I want a partner who's devoted to me, or they're like mine. They're reaching for what we're talking about, the level of love that we're talking about right now. Right. And the only way that they can access that is to move, to be in the afterlife, as you say sometimes, have died to your deepest fears even, moved into them with love to come out the other side. That is a level of devotion to self that can now be experienced.
Be extended, yeah.
It can
be shared. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that's what they're reaching, that's what we're reaching for. Especially the beings on the leading edge that are about expansion, it's accelerated for them, and that's what they're on always, a lot of people in our tribe. That's what's up. I feel like that's what we're going, we're moving toward. All the women in our tribe, all the women in this space, that's what they're wanting. That's new clarity right there. Never expressed it that way.
Yeah. Totally agree, bro. And I think that as beings individually and in a couple, with our in our divine partnerships, if we acknowledge the fact that we're evolving souls, and we sort of kind of fast forward in our evolution a bit, and if we fundamentally really believe in or are committed to some of the things that we intuitively know, or things that we talk about, like heaven on earth and being gods and goddesses and whatnot, then I think that we, at some point we really will come into an equilibrium and a balance in our valuing of the physical and the non-physical when we come to see that they're not actually separate. They're actually one. And I think that that's very relevant in relationships. It doesn't seem to be at this point because that's a smaller part of our conversation. But if the non-physical and the physical are mirrors and they're actually the same thing, and we we intellectually understand that, most people, especially in our tribe, and can feel it and even know it to a certain degree. But to apply that in the realm of relationships and limitless relationship, then what we're really saying is, our thoughts and our feelings, essentially, everything's a thought and a feeling before it becomes a manifest reality. Even our relationship, even the moments in our relationship, they're even if we're not consciously thinking, we're constantly creating. So what I'm saying is this idea, the implications of it in relationship, I think are worthy of talking about. Like, for example, if I think about being with another woman, and I can actually have a feeling, or I have a feeling of magnetic attraction, whether I call it I want to be with this girl, or I just have the vibration move through my body, and it just trips me out because I'm guilty too, that knowing the realness of that experience of feeling the energy and feeling the thoughts and feeling the emotion and being in the actual experience, but still saying that the physical part is the deal breaker. That's the thing where it becomes legit. That's the thing where it becomes real, is ridiculous at this point. If we're super conscious beings, or if we know that we are, how is one actually more than another? And I think that's provable, especially to anybody who's within an earshot of this conversation. It's provable even by simply, like, when you're in a certain emotional state of being, like, I could touch my woman and have a certain feeling, or she has a certain feeling, and it feels different based on how, like, if she's not receiving, if she's blocked, if I'm blocked. But yet, why do we make that the deal breaker? Why do we make that the final frontier, the physical, when we know that it's not? It's the thing that's most threatening. But think about another woman, feel about her, have a non-physical relationship with her, like we're all in multiple relationships. Even if it's not multiple relationship, like I want to be with that person, it could just be a feeling. It could be passing by a stranger and in a moment exchanging energy. That's real, bro. And as we come to experience heaven on earth more, and we come to validate and put value and validity and tangibility on the non-physical as well as the physical, then I think we really have to look at that and be like, do you know how many relationships we're in with people? But yet, that touch, if it comes down, if you're feeling it, and then you touch and express it, it's like, whoa, now that's where the line gets drawn. I'm like, why is that where the line gets drawn when the other is actually more real?
Right.
I'm saying
right?
Equal, but I'm going to be bold enough right now just to say that it's actually more real.
Right. It's where all the energy's at.
It's where all the energy's at. It's where the experience is at.
Yeah.
It's where the real juice is at.
Right.
And that's why some people have a touch and they feel nothing. Some feel ecstasy. Some feel this. Some feel that. It's the energy.
Yeah, that's happening so much, and to like, just to feel how much energy it requires to not receive that. Like to try to hold it out and hold it off.
Right.
Like a lot of people are doing. You know, that takes an enormous amount of energy. And it's not even like, what's like being in the space of receiving it is so delightful. And I think that it's important also to understand that nothing is compromised in that space. Every one of those connections is sacred and pure and amazing and everything that it's meant to be. And exclusive relationship can still exist in that space too. It's a matter of choice. And it's, like I said, devotion, and it's pure. I can't imagine even more pure, more exclusive relationship than one that's made when receiving all of it and choosing that.
Right.
That's the zone. That's what's up. If you want that, you can have that there too. You can have anything you want.
The other thing I thought about, which is kind of ridiculous in the realm of making the physical more real than the non-physical, is that in the spirit of that, you know, in this final frontier, let's just move into the masses, into the normal relationships. Like, managing your action, that's feasible. We can do that one. You know, and all it takes is that
some people aren't even good at that one. But
we can
do that one.
Like, if we get into managing your thoughts and your feeling, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Basically,
yeah.
That's prison.
Yeah.
No one can successfully do that. You cannot
energy,
judge yourself enough and repress yourself enough
to block it off.
To block it off completely.
No.
And so what I'm saying is, even people who appear to be doing that and keeping it aren't actually doing it. It's not working. It's not even that is an illusion. It's false. It's not even happening. Right. But we can convince ourselves that it's happening. And I'm saying this more collectively now because we're saying, actually, we've got it under control because we've managed the physical. That's more easier to manage. You're like, don't do this.
Right.
But you try to manage your own thought.
Not even really being successful at that either, right?
Yeah, I mean, collectively, we're not even successful at that. I mean, all the cheating and all that goes on.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I mean, like, that, yeah. If you think that's hard, you drop the conversations two levels deeper into thought and into energy.
Right.
Forget about it. You're miserable. You're like in betrayal of your own soul zone, and you're certainly not in love if you're playing in that zone.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, man. To think that we're so hypnotized by the physical that people, like women, can actually, not just women, people can convince themselves that nothing's going on and they can feel safe within that. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on. What? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing's going on here. Hey.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it.
We're committed. Yeah, you know, like that's no cheating going on here. No, like any. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, if thoughts and energy were cheating,
Right, yeah,
everybody's cheating.
everybody's
Everybody's
cheating
cheating.
all the
And
time.
I think that's in the Bible, bro. Somewhere, I'm not trying to bring a Bible quote down. I think that's in the Bible somewhere.
Right.
Somewhere off in the moral code, it's like, even if you're coveting, I think that energetically, I think it's in the Bible. It's like, if you're thinking about it, it's the same as doing it.
Yeah.
That's even in the Bible. So I'm like, everybody's fucked.
Yeah. If that's how they're living, right?
Right.
Judging
Or
themselves by that.
or you can keep judging yourself, and if you know, if you have a religious faith that allows you to keep confessing, then you can just keep doing that. Man, I saw that movie with what's Gordon Hewitt or whatever, the guy that was in Don John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, he was like addicted to sex and porn, and every time he would, like, you know, go sleep with honeys and masturbate and, like, I mean, like 10, 15 times a day, daily. He'd be like, mother, I slept with 5 girls last week, masturbated 18 times. I had some other guy, and he's like, okay, son, that's 12 Hail Marys, 5 rosary, whatever. He's like, and then he'd go back and do it again. He had to absolve his sins every single time.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, yes, I guess he didn't go kill himself or something. Feels so guilty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Guilt is one of the fundamental viruses or off points of our human experience. It's so not in truth. It's not how our soul, it's not how the divine, it's not how the Creator beholds us.
Right.
And so it's not productive. It's I don't want to say it's useless, because it's useful if it evolves our soul. I mean, you know, spin it that way, but it's a very contracted, non-productive emotion. And that's what I think that in our collective psyche, there's like enormous amounts of guilt associated with sex. So
jealousy too.
Yeah. Anyway, I say, like, you know, I don't claim to have all the answers. I have some good ideas. I have things that I feel like work and don't work. But, like, let's progress the conversation. At least consciously progress in the direction of what our soul is calling for, and do that together, which is love. You know, and I feel like then there's really a chance to continue to thrive and to continue to deepen. So that's what's up. Yeah.